Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. And tonight we are making the brackets for the World Wrestling Elite Tournament, the best in all elite wrestling, AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and more. But before we get to that, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. So here's how this is going to work. We are going to make two brackets of 8. We have the Bruce Prichard bracket and the Dave Meltzer bracket. So Ralph is going to pick 8 wrestlers. I'm going to pick 8 wrestlers. Ralph's top 4 will face my bottom 4 to make up one of the brackets. And then my top 4 will face Ralph's bottom 4. And we'll just go from there. And how we're going to pick this, we're just going to alternate kind of like a draft.
Right.
And just go from there. And Ralph, age before beauty, so I'll let you go first.
All right. So with the first pick in the draft, I never really liked having this spot, especially in fantasy football, because there's a lot of pressure on you. But, of course, I'm going to have to go with the stud of the group. So, naturally, I'm going to take PWI, number 1 wrestler of the year, the best bout machine, Kenny Omega. So, for obvious reasons, Kenny Omega dating back to, well, for quite some time now, Kenny Omega has been an amazing wrestler, but he's really come into his own, become one of the more popular wrestlers within the wrestling industry. You look back to some of his matches with Okada, having one of the highest rated, actually I think it's the highest rated match of all time, according to Dave Meltzer, perhaps one of the greatest matches ever. How could you not pick Kenny Omega first? So I am going with Omega.
And as it would just be suspected, if one takes Omega, the other one has to take the other one that's considered the greatest wrestler right now today, and that is Kazuchika Okada of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, the 720 days as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, you know, leading New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's going to be one of the top wrestlers there for years to come. And now that Kenny Omega is gone for All Elite Wrestling, it's just natural that these guys, you know, we may never see them one-on-one again unless it's in the finals of this tournament.
Right.
So I'm excited to see the rest of this bracket because this is where things could get interesting because a lot of people have their way of who could fit their bracket where, who's part of the best of the world. So Ralph, who is your number 2?
So this is a guy that is probably a little underutilized. I'm sure most people would agree with me, but supremely talented. Hopefully he has a big year going forward after WrestleMania. I am going with the Demon, Finn Balor. So he's my number 2 pick. Amazing athlete. First Universal Champion of all time. Unfortunately, that was cut short. Did some amazing things in New Japan Pro Wrestling, obviously being the leader of the Bullet Club when he was Prince Devitt. Amazing talent when he was in NXT. And you know, he's still a young guy, so hopefully he's got a lot of years left ahead of him. Whether he sticks with WWE or goes elsewhere, that's going to be up to him. But you can't deny the guy's talent, so I'm going with Finn Balor at number 2.
That's actually a surprise. I think a lot of people are going to go into the comments and say it's a little too high with Finn Balor, but
hey man, you got to take some risk, big reward here. And the people will be on my side. I know that.
I don't know, especially because with my number 2 pick, I think this is, in fact, the best wrestler in WWE right now, and a lot of people would agree with me on this. My number 2 pick is also a former leader of the Bullet Club, and that is AJ Styles, just coming off one of the longest reigns in WWE history for the WWE Championship, lasting 371 days, tying Macho Man Randy Savage on that account. Having matches with Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura and Daniel Bryan. One of the better matches in WWE for the last years or so, and really carrying SmackDown Live on his back for a long time. Yep. So, I mean, if you're going to pick someone to be the best in WWE right now, it's obviously got to put him in the discussion.
Yeah, you have to put him in the discussion. You look back to some of the matches he's had. And a common foe that the two that we just picked have, obviously being Brock Lesnar. They both had amazing matches with Brock Lesnar, something that he's criticized for not having, you know, Lesnar not having the best matches. But at the end of the day, Finn Balor and AJ Styles brought the best out of Brock. Also, you look back to some of the matches AJ had with John Cena. all-time great matches, not just good matches. We're talking all-time great, memorable matches. So
possibly the best match John Cena ever had was against AJ Styles.
And
at
yeah, the same
Rumble.
could be said for, at least for what AJ has done in the WWE. You got to look to either the match he had with Brock or at least one of the matches he's had with Cena. So yeah, another solid pick there.
All right, so let's move on. Number 3 seeds.
So I am going with an individual who I came on our show about 5 months back and criticized for his heel turn. But that being said, now that he is a heel, he is probably one of the more compelling individuals across WWE programming. And of course, I'm talking about the new Daniel Bryan. So, I don't think a lot of people necessarily like his character, but it is so different from anything anyone else is doing within the wrestling industry. Not only is it different from what anyone else is doing, it's so far removed from the Daniel Bryan of old in the Yes movement. Mm-hmm. Staying true to who he really is as a person, but I mean, just being able to get under the skin of the fans with the fickle, impotent, all of that stuff that he's doing. I love it. I mean, there's very few heels nowadays who can go out there and generate legitimate heat from the crowd, but he can manage to do that. So I got to go with Daniel Bryan, man. He's a great character, one of the more compelling guys, and of course, he's still an amazing wrestler. So Daniel Bryan.
And on top of that, with Daniel Bryan, he is one of the reasons why the WWE Championship actually main evented a pay-per-view for the first time in a long time. Even with pay-per-views that don't have Brock Lesnar as the Universal Champion, another match would be the main event outside of whatever the WWE Championship match was. So now seeing Daniel Bryan as the WWE Champion, we see the Elimination Chamber at Fastlane main event. We saw Daniel Bryan main event with Brock Lesnar. So finally some prestige to the WWE Championship, which has kind of been missing for a while.
And it's funny because, a lot of people talk about Brock Lesnar and we're bringing up again. So you think back to some of Brock's best matches with Balor, AJ, and Daniel Bryan, all 3 guys in a row. So those smaller guys, man, that's where it's at for Brock. He can really work well with those guys.
All right. So I'm actually going to veer off from WWE with my number 3. And I think this is possibly the most charismatic wrestler in the world. And he backs it up with being a great wrestler in the ring.
Chris Jericho.
Close. It is actually his opponent at Wrestle Kingdom and at Dominion. I'm talking about Tetsuya Naito of LIJ, of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I just love this guy. I just love the whole tranquilo and the persona that he has. And he's so great in the ring with matches with Omega and Jericho. And you just watch any New Japan show and he is going to be there and have a great match. So you got to put him out there. And he's going to be in the first round of the New Japan Cup against Kota Ibushi. That's, to me, that's a final for a tournament.
That's a match you got to see for sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're putting it in the first round and not setting it up for a final. But he is the Intercontinental Champion right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling too. So big up there. So who you got for your number 4 seed?
So my number 4 seed, I'm basing strictly on his body of work recently. He was recently injured. He had surgery, I think, this morning. Was it this morning or yesterday morning? I think it was this morning.
I think it's this morning.
This morning. So suffering from a serious neck injury. I'm talking about the Sicilian psychopath, Tommaso Ciampa. So one half of DIY. What can you not say about this guy? I mean, again, when you talk about heels nowadays in wrestling who can truly generate heat, get the fans to boo him and say, F you, Ciampa, F you, Ciampa. I mean, this guy's just got that it factor. He's got a great look. He's got a good personality. He can play true or stay true to his character. And he just so happens to be amazing in the ring. So you look back to some of his great matches, obviously his storied history between him and Gargano. I've been so vocal about how this has been probably, and to my opinion, one of the best storylines to come out of professional wrestling in so long, maybe in comparison to that. That feud and maybe Okada and Omega is the only thing that you can kind of compare to it because nowadays in wrestling, you don't really get a storyline that plays out over the course of, this is probably over a year now, but you have that. And it seemed like we were going to get the payoff with Johnny Gargano finally accomplishing his goal of defeating Ciampa for the title. Unfortunately, he's out and he's injured, but I mean, in my opinion, definitely top 5 in the world right now as far as professional wrestling all around. When you consider wrestling, personality, everything, he's got everything that you'd want out of a guy.
Don't you think it's a little high for someone that is, yes, he is the top heel in this promotion, but many still consider it the developmental promotion of WWE.
Developmental or not, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, this guy could be a top heel with this character wherever he goes. And I stay true to that. I mean, because when you look at NXT, I think a lot of people, and myself included, would say NXT, while it's the developmental of WWE, has put on consistently better shows for quite some time now, and more people are actually viewing that in comparison to some of their larger pay-per-views.
Right.
He's a part of that success. And not only that, but again, when you talk about guys being able to transform themselves from seeing what he was, usually a lot of the times you'll see these guys that are in these tag teams and they can't really develop by themselves as just a singles guy. But Gargano's been able to do it, and Ciampa's been able to do it. And I think, in my opinion, Tommaso Ciampa is one of the best heels in the world across the board, not just for WWE developmental, not just for for NXT. I'm talking like top in the world right now. I think he's that good.
All right. Well, my number 4 is, in my opinion, the best luchador in the world. He does stuff in singles competition. He does stuff in tag teams. He does stuff in intergender matches, and he does not seem to disappoint anytime he's in the ring. Of course, I'm talking about Pentagon Jr. He's done stuff in Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, Major League Wrestling. He's going to be in All Elite Wrestling. The guy is just everywhere.
All In. His match against Kenny Omega.
Yep, his match against Kenny Omega at All In. I'm very excited to see what him and Ray Phoenix are going to do against the Young Bucks at All Elite Wrestling.
Absolutely.
The guy is just so good and so fluid in the ring. And I've been vocal about the flippy floppy stuff and suicide dives and that dangerous stuff that's unnecessary, but Pentagon just does it in a way where I can watch it and it's still good. Yeah. So very entertaining, and he works for me. Number 4. So that's my 4 seed there. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the bottom half. So who are our top 4 facing here, starting with your number 5?
My number 5 pick, as you kind of alluded to, talking about being fluid in the ring, I'm going with Will Ospreay. So you look to his recent body of work and some of the things he's done, kind of assuming a more edgy kind of heelish character right now. So he no longer goes by the Ariel Assassin. You see on his Twitter, he actually crossed out Ariel and is just Assassin. So it's interesting because listening to Chris Jericho on his podcast there, he said that he's actually much bigger in person than most people would think. I think this coming year going forward, you're going to see a lot more of Will Ospreay. It really kind of become one of the bigger guys within the industry. Not that he's not big now, but really start to establish himself as one of the more prominent guys within the wrestling world. So I'm going to go with Will Ospreay.
Yep, and Will Ospreay's definitely impressed me the last few months, and I've was kind of critical on him for a while, but yeah, he's definitely improved a long, long way, and I'm very excited to see how his character portrays in New Japan Pro Wrestling and the British independent scene as well. Someone that I think a lot of people are going to get upset that we're putting him so low in this bracket, but my number 5 seed is Seth Rollins. Might be a little sleeper pick here. Might be the Cinderella story of our World Wrestling Elite tournament. Might make it to the finals. Who knows? But you know, he's the guy right now. He carried Monday Night Raw for the entire 2018 year.
Definitely did. And he could be the next Universal Champion after WrestleMania.
Yep, that is true. So you gotta put him in there.
I think there's going to be a certain bias from the people commenting that are going to say that a lot of independent wrestlers should be put above WWE guys, just because that's kind of the trend right now.
Yeah,
independence wrestling is very popular, and WWE. A lot of people are critical of that. But you absolutely cannot deny what Seth Rollins has done over the course of the last year, and definitely can't deny his talent.
Yeah, of course. Number 6. Who's your 6th seed?
Number 6. So I'm going to go. I already drafted Tommaso Ciampa, and I'm going to go with his counterpart. So the other half of DIY, I am going with Johnny Gargano. So again, much like Ciampa, you can look to any of the recent takeovers. They don't call him Johnny Takeover for nothing. You look at some of the matches he's had, not just the ones he's had with Ciampa, but his match against Aleister Black, I thought was absolutely amazing. Not only is he able to have great matches, but there's the psychology there too.
Yes.
So that's why I think these guys are so good, not just Ciampa, but also Gargano, because they get the psychological aspect of professional wrestling, and they're actually telling a story when they're in there. The near falls, everything. I mean, this guy's got it. I think he's another one. As long as he's given the opportunity in WWE, he can do so much. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to take him, Johnny Takeover, Gargano. He's my next guy.
Number 6 on my list here is, to me, if he's pushed right, the next Andre the Giant. And that's a tall order. I understand that. And that's saying a lot, but this guy, just something about him, he has it. He's got the look, he's got the size, he's got the in-ring ability, and he's got that mystique about him, because he doesn't talk too much, but he does all his talking in the ring, and he does it all with his chops. I'm talking about the recent NXT UK signee, Walter.
Yep.
Gotta put Walter on here. Absolutely love this guy. There's nothing you can say about him other than push him right.
He is the next Andre. He is the ring general, so we shall see.
All right. Getting down to the last two here.
So getting to this point was obviously tough picking wrestlers, but I am going to go with another NXT guy recently called up. I'm going with Aleister Black. So again, when you look to some of the recent takeovers, some of the matches he's had, amazing. His match again with Gargano, lights out. I love his style. I like his look. I think he'll do a lot of big things on the main roster as long as he's booked the right way and pushed the right way. So I am going with Aleister Black.
My number 7 is going to surprise people, because it is not a male singles competitor. It is a female singles competitor, and it's not from WWE. In my opinion, this is the best women's wrestler in the world. I'm talking about Tessa Blanchard is going to be my number 7 seed.
Interesting.
Now, yes, you could be saying, why are we putting women in this? I mean, look at the women's evolution right now. We talk about Becky Lynch, we talk about Charlotte, Ronda Rousey, but if you broaden your horizons and go outside of WWE, the first name that comes to mind every single time is Tessa Blanchard. You got to put her on this list.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned her, because my next pick is actually Charlotte Flair. So when you talk about the women's revolution, you got to go to the woman who is, the most consistent. Right now, Becky Lynch is probably the hottest in WWE in terms of just across the board, in terms of just wrestlers and, who's on top right now. But Charlotte Flair consistently, week in, week out, every single pay-per-view, always the one that's willing to do the crazy stunts, backflips and whatever else, just to make a match interesting. She's got everything: the look, the personality, the last name, and most importantly, the in-ring ability. She's not just a good female wrestler, she is a great wrestler, period. So I'm going with Charlotte Flair.
Same thing you could say about Tessa Blanchard. And
absolutely.
If they ever were in a ring together,
epic.
It would be so good. That would be a WrestleMania main event.
Definitely.
If they did that. If they were able to get Tessa in WWE. But rounding off the round of 16, I'm going to be honest, this is a little biased, because he is personally my favorite wrestler outside of WWE. I love his character. He's probably one of the best cruiser or junior heavyweights, whatever you want to call them. And he's actually going to be our only Ring of Honor representative in this bracket.
Yep.
And it's Marty Scurll. Absolutely love this guy. The villain. I love him. I remember the first match I saw him in was the Fatal 4-Way for the Junior Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom. What was this past one? 13. So that would be Wrestle Kingdom 12 or 11. I can't remember which one it was, but I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments. And then, of course, his match with Okada at All In was absolutely unbelievable. My favorite match of the night. So going with Marty Scurll to round things out. So here are the brackets. So we have Kenny Omega versus Marty Scurll, Finn Balor versus Tessa Blanchard, Daniel Bryan versus Walter, Tommaso Ciampa versus Seth Rollins, Will Ospreay versus Pentagon Jr., Naito versus Gargano, AJ versus Aleister Black, and Kazuchika Okada versus Charlotte Flair. Woo! This is going to be fun.
This is going to be fun, but I know one of my wrestlers is going to bring it home for me.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe the best bout machine.
I don't know. The Rainmaker, I think, is bringing it home. But It's not up to us. We don't pick the winners. You guys do. So let us know in the comments who you think will win this World Wrestling Elite tournament. And the voting starts on Monday, and we'll give you all the details on that when our first video goes up on Monday. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.